So if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I've said time and time again that self-publishing is a lot of work. It's definitely worth it, but it is a lot of work and you have to be ready for it. It's not just all sitting down at the computer and writing. It is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It is a lot of finding out what to do, what's right and what's wrong. And a lot of it is dependent, you just have to try things and some of the things will work and other things won't work. And it's different for everybody. So anybody who's telling you that there's some sort of roadmap to automatic success is full of shit. And I'll say that over and over again. But some of the challenges, I think one of the number one challenges is visibility. It's an incredibly saturated market out there because these platforms are available to everyone. Literally anybody can publish a book. And so because of that, let's face it, if it was easy, every single person would do it. But now that it is easier, more people do it. So there are a lot of books out there. So of the millions and millions of books out there, how do people find my book and how do people find my work? So being discovered is a huge issue. And there's lots of different ways that you can be discovered. There's a lot of, technical things, making sure you're using the proper keywords, making sure you put yourself into a genre or subgenre that isn't overly competitive. If I put myself in epic fantasy, I'm going to be competing against, I don't know the number, 5 million books. But if I do like a epic fantasy coming of age or something like that, maybe I'm only up against 2 million books. You see what I'm saying on drilling down, making sure that your metadata is correct so that whenever people are searching for things online, that you get triggered and your book gets pulled to the top, making sure that your book blurb is entertaining, running ads, doing branding, social media, screaming into the void and hoping that somebody will hear you. That in essence, that's what it is. You just have to keep doing it and you constantly have to put yourself out there. It can't just be like, oh, every once in a while, I'm just going to go out and do that. No, it has to be constant. You will be competing with other established authors. So it is just crazy that, you could search like your book or your genre and you can see somebody famous, you're scrolling, oh, here's somebody famous, scroll down a few more, here's my book. Oh my God, I'm on the same search page as such and such, maybe one of your, inspirations, I guess, maybe one of your favorite authors. And that is a crazy notion. And it's like, well, how do I compete with them? If you want to feel good about yourself as an indie published author, go to your favorite book or your favorite author, one of their books, and go read the 1-star comments and you'll feel better about things because they get a lot of 1-star comments too. So if you ever need a pick me up, I would suggest doing that. It can be very interesting because it's a book that you love and like somebody is just tearing it apart. So it just goes to show that even that book is not for everybody. Your book's not going to be for everybody either. But, every book has an audience. It just depends how big is that audience, right? So that's the question. So, your effective marketing and your branding can help increase your visibility, but it is a long game. I'm telling you right now. Self-publishing is not something that you're like, oh, I just uploaded my book to Amazon and we'll just wait and see what happens. You are never going to get a sale. It's not going to happen. You can have the best keywords and the metadata in the whole world, but if you're not doing anything whatsoever, if you're not doing live in-person events, if you don't have a Facebook page, if you don't have anything out there, I can promise you'll have a few months of success where you will sell to friends and family, but after that, crickets. You're not going to get anything. You have to constantly be pushing it, constantly be nurturing. You may even have to go back and revisit things. I've changed covers for one of my books 3 times. I'll go back and rewrite the back book blurb. I've even gone back and because no matter what you pay for editing, you will always find some kind of typo, or somebody will tell you, hey, did you know that there was a typo on page 81? Write it down, keep a list of them, and occasionally go back, update those, fix those. You can do that. That's the great thing with self-publishing. I just go in and I re-upload the interior of the book and fix it. No problem. But yeah, you do have to change tactics. You just can't, if you're not getting a response from the book, then, is it the cover? Is it the description? Revisit it, change it, see if it changes the outcome. Distribution can be an issue, navigating multiple platforms. You can be on the Kindle Direct Publishing, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, Kobo, and each one of these different platforms has its own set of rules for formatting your book. So even on KDP, I have a format for print and I have a format for ebook. And I recently had an author that I met at an in-person event. He actually reached out and messaged me. I can't remember if it was this week or it might have been last week. He's like, how in the hell do you publish? How do you format this? He's like, I've been working at this for a month and we cannot figure out how to get this thing uploaded. And so I pointed out, I was like, well, here's some things to consider and some resources. And I think they're still struggling with it. And so I offered, you send it to me and I can tell you where it's getting hung up and what's happening with it. But yes, formatting can be extremely finicky, making sure that you have your titles correct, making sure that your page numbers are correct. You want your margins, making sure your spacing, page breaks are a big one. But I format it here and then I have to go over here and change all of that formatting for a different platform. So there's a learning curve to learning all of that for sure and juggling it all. There's also the quality perception. It's getting better because we're having successful indie authors who are becoming big names. A lot of that is happening on Book Talk. If you get out on TikTok, a lot of those books, some books can go viral out there. But there is a stigma that because, it's not traditionally published and, this multiple rounds of editing, that self-publishing books are inferior to traditional published books. Now, some of that's true. I have read my fair share of steaming piles of garbage. And you should read Steaming Piles of Garbage, and that's because those will tell you what not to do. Some of them are really hard to finish. There's been a few that I'm just like, yeah, I can't do this. But there's been a few that have been really, really good. The Atlantis Gene by, I forget, is it something Riddle, I think is his name. Really great. He was self-published, loved the books, read all three of them, read the entire trilogy, loved it. So good, so innovative, so different. It was wonderfully executed, and that was self-published. So you get some diamonds in there, but you do get garbage in there too. And so I encourage you, if you want to be a self-published author, don't contribute to the garbage section of being an indie author, and invest the time and effort into making sure that you're publishing quality material. Pricing pressure. So, you always have to, it's a double-edged sword with pricing. Most indie authors tend to want to publish their stuff cheaper because they feel like it's an inferior product, which reduces your profitability. I would urge you to go out and look at similar books in your genre. Look at the big sellers and maybe price yourself slightly below the big seller. But I wouldn't completely price yourself out of the market. And, so if books in your genre are selling, if an ebook is going for $9.99 regularly, and, you want to price it like $8.99 or $7.99, that's okay. But don't price it at $2.99. That's just a glaring red flag that I don't believe in my work. It's garbage. And people will pass it by. So just look at what pay attention to what the market's doing on pricing, and don't feel like you need to shortchange yourself. If your work's good, you should be compensated for your work and stand behind it. So navigating the crowded field, the market saturation, like we've talked about, the quality perception, and pricing pressure. Digital literacy, we've already touched on that on some of the challenges of formatting the book, mastering the tools of trade, using multiple platforms, your technical skills, and being proficient in whatever platform that you're using to create your manuscript. I primarily use Word. I know a lot of people use Scrivener or another, you need to become proficient in whatever you're using and figuring out how to use it. You also need to figure out the tools for marketing and how to analyze your marketing. So you need to go out and look at your insights on Facebook to see what demographics are visiting your page so that you know where your audience is. So whenever you're creating content, you're keeping your audience in mind when you're creating that content. So it's kind of, you have to learn the tools and how to read the market is basically what you have to do. And adapting to technological changes. So as things change, you need to be able to adapt to new platforms, new algorithms, new tools that may emerge, and change your strategy. So you have to be very nimble. The great thing is that since it is, an indie platform and you can pretty much change, you don't have to go through 800 channels to get a change made. You can just make a change. It's just you. So you should be able to adapt quickly once you figure things out. And I'm going to be completely honest, you can figure things out anymore. If there's something you want to learn how to do, I can promise you that there's a YouTube video on how to do it. And I'll have to work on some formatting videos apparently, because, that seems to be an issue that a lot of people struggle with. So another challenge is, you have to become pretty much a jack of all trades to be able to make this dream come true.